why do you think it keeps on happening with India? And what actually do you feel about this particular incident?
And therefore they have again done it, and there are enough evidence to prove that it is the hand of the Pakistani army. It's not a very good situation, it's not a healthy situation at all for any country to keep frequently having these kind of terrorist activities. You have seen in the past, whether it was Kandahar, whether it was 26/11 or Parliament attack, we had a lot of anger within the country. For this to be effective, you understand, water is downstream. I mean, you cannot hold it for long. Unless we build up a lot of storage capacity, a lot of diversionary capacity through the canal system, and again building up canals in the hills and all that. So it's a long drawn process. If you have to punish a country, and when you know who are the real culprits, if it is not the people, if it is the government of the day, it is those establishment, the deep state within the country, and when you have identified them so well after all these years, then your actions have to be calibrated in a manner that those responsible agencies, in this case Pakistani army.
Namaskar, welcome to the ICPRD podcast. My name is Rajat Mishra, and today with us we have Group Captain retired Vishwajeet Kumar. Welcome, sir. But unfortunately, we are sitting here after a horrific incident which has happened in Pahalgam on 22nd of April. You obviously are aware of all of the situations, how those things have occurred. Why do you think it keeps on happening with India? And what actually do you feel about this particular incident?
See, Rajat, good evening to you. It is extremely sad that our country, India, is witnessing this kind of incident once again. Uh, at the outset, no word is could be possible to condemn this kind of barbaric act perpetrated by the agencies uh, wholly backed and supported by the Pakistani agencies, Pakistani army. And therefore, we all understand that Pakistan is known for these kind of activities, and they have done it repeatedly in the past, and therefore they have again done it. And there are enough evidence to prove that it is the hand of the Pakistani army.
Right.
And but nevertheless, the kind of barbarism which has been witnessed by the visuals that we all have seen, it is condemnable. It is the worst kind of, I would say, extremism, and any amount of condemnation of Pakistan and its establishments would not be enough. And that's what is the world doing at the moment, and that's the one good part of it, that India finds the major powers of the world unequivocally condemning this incident and standing by the people of India and the Indian leadership.
So you have been part of security establishment, intelligence establishment. As I asked earlier, why it keeps on happening with India and why we fail to stop it or to pause it completely?
Yeah, it's a very, 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 very relevant question, and I think it must be tickling the mind of most of our countrymen. It's not a very good situation. It's not a healthy situation at all for any country to keep frequently having these kind of terrorist activities. You have seen in the past, whether it was Kandahar, whether it was 26/11 or Parliament attack, we had a lot of anger within the country. But as a nation, we could not take on any punitive action as far as Pakistan was concerned, which probably emboldened them, and they landed up doing that Uri. But yes, the best part, the good part after Uri was that we reacted. We did something substantial by going in for surgical strike. Therefore, again, Pakistan did that Pahalgam, and no, sorry,
Balakot.
no, that was Pulwama,
Yeah, Pulwama.
and that Pulwama resulted into surgical that Balakot strike.
Right, Balakot.
So last two incidents when we have reacted in a substantial manner, and something which India had not done in the past. So that you would see that it had some kind of an impact on Pakistan, and it held on for some time. आए दिन का जो हम सुनते थे, इधर टेररिस्ट एक्टिविटी, उधर बॉम्ब, ये वो, all sponsored, there has been a substantial decrease on those kind of activities, phenomenal decrease in the these kind of incidents all over the country. Okay. You know, so many incidents happening, bomb blast somewhere,
Right.
Terrorist activity here, there. Every now and then we used to witness those kind of news. So after the India's action post Uri into surgical strike, and post Pulwama into Balakot strike, they acted as a deterrent, and the result is there for everybody to see.
Right.
And the country has passed through almost last 10, 11 years a very, very peaceful phase. So that is the kind of impact that a punitive action has. Now that Pakistanis have again ventured with this Pahalgam attack, is the time for India to do something substantial. And what India does is for the times to come. I mean, we will wait and see what all our country does. But yes, unless you make them pay for what they do, unless that the pain, unless we inflict that kind of pain on the Pakistani establishment, and more so on the Pakistani army.
Okay.
As you must have heard, that the country's own army, here army owns the country.
Yes,
That
of
is
course.
Pakistan. It's a very, very sad but unique feature of Pakistan. So with that kind of a background, unless we make, by killing few terrorists here and there, I don't think it's going to make a difference. ये छोटे बड़े पैदे हैं उनके. What we need to do at this moment is to make Pakistani army bleed. Unless we do that, unless we see the Pakistani army's body bags going back to their homes, the impact will not last much. So what we have to, and the situation that we are confronting, that we have to look at this aspect very, very seriously, that it is only the Pakistani army which, unless it is bled, the impact will not last long. That we have to, that our policy planners, that our leadership has to keep in mind before taking further course of action.
Right, sir. So I understand your perspective, especially taking on directly, like direct attacks, direct hits, which will impact Pakistani army, its security establishments, and all. There is another factor to it, which we have been trying for some time now, and which has made Pakistan isolated in the global scenarios.
Very true.
Be it IMF's situation, putting it in grey list, threatening to take it to blacklist so that Pakistan doesn't get any loans, any other financial assistance. Blocking almost all other sort of activities through which it can interact with maybe India and maybe with other countries as well, right? How far should we take that one thing, and also the suspension of Indus Water Treaty and some of the actions which India has just taken?
Announced, yeah.
Yes, announced, right? What do you think all of that, like how should we carry forward with these, and how much impact they can have?
Yeah, as you rightly said, that after the Cabinet Committee on Security meeting, which was chaired by Honorable Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary announced certain measures, including the held in abeyance IWT, Indus Water Treaty, which I think is one of the major steps India has taken, considering that all the 4 wars that we fought with Pakistan since independence, never ever this thing was invoked. This is for the first time that India has stopped Indus Water Treaty, which is a major step. Having said that, we also understand that it is not one immediate action wala point.
Right.
For this to be effective, you understand, water is downstream. I mean, you cannot hold it for long.
Yes, you can't.
Unless we build up a lot of storage capacity,
Exactly.
lot of diversionary capacity through the canal system, and again building up
We
canals
have to-
in the hills and all that.
Yes, exactly.
So
We
it's
have
a
to
long
watch
drawn
this.
process.
Right.
I mean, I would not mind saying that we should have worked on it many years back, started working on it as one of those contingencies to be utilized in future.
Right.
This is a sort of a weapon in your hand,
Yes.
which is quite effective. It can prove very, very effective, or I would say almost crippling effect on Pakistan's economy.
Right.
But yes, having taken the first step of putting this treaty in abeyance, what I feel, and I'm confident government of India will put its head together and would plan all those necessary infrastructure for it to be effective.
Right.
In terms of lifting up that water, creating a storage capacity within our country, and then diverting to our states within the plain Punjab, Haryana, Delhi area, where those waters can be used more effectively, and tighten the screw on Pakistan whenever we need to. So that kind of infrastructure will have to be built. Yes, that will take time, but the very fact we have taken that first step is a welcome step. Having said that, there are other aspects also have been taken that the visas has been. These are okay, temporary, immediate punitive actions. Their embassy military attaches have been sent back. They've been given 7 days time to return back.
Right.
Those are fine. Those are. But what we need to look at is the long-term measures, because if you look at the post-independence history of Pakistan, they have been the most notorious neighbor that any country can think of. It's very unfortunate. They're part of erstwhile India. They separated, became independent country. But that वो जो venom है, वो जहर जो है, which
Right.
their forefathers planted in their mind, that is somehow still festering. And you heard the recent interview of their address of the Pakistani Army Chief.
Yes.
I mean, it is so shocking. I mean, it is in a way good for us to know that here is a country whose army chief talks like a mullah.
Yeah, exactly. The mask
The
has
most
been at least
rabid mullah that you can think of. I mean, he is a chalta firta in uniform, a mullah. I mean, he is as good as a terrorist.
Exactly.
I mean, he is no better than Hafiz Saeed and Lashkar-e-Taiba, any elements. So, with that kind of a person heading the army, and even funnier and sadder part was that the Prime Minister was sitting in that audience. I mean, for a moment when I saw that video, I couldn't believe that here is a country whose army chief is talking literally so bad, so much of full of venom, that bad feelings about a particular Hindu community. I mean, it's unthinkable. Unthinkable. I mean, I don't think in my life I've ever heard even any country's uniformed personnel general talking so negatively, so
Vulgar.
badly
Yes.
about another community.
And it also shows how army chief is more powerful than the prime minister.
Absolutely.
Elected prime minister.
I mean,
actually.
you don't have to look for any other evidence. ये अपने आप में इतना बड़ा उदाहरण है जहाँ हम कहते हैं कि वहाँ गवर्नमेंट सिर्फ एक दिखावे का है. रियल गवर्नमेंट इज बेसिकली आर्मी. दे बेसिकली वो सरकार को नचाते हैं द वे दे फील लाइक. And it was on blatant display just few days back. So, having seen that, like you're saying, what is the way forward?
Right.
I think it has to be long drawn. There could be some short-term measure which the government has announced. Then would be something between medium term. But there have to be many which has to be long term.
Right.
The visionary aspects, which for whatever reasons, in last 75 years of our independence, probably we have done in bits and pieces, but we have not understood like a few जो हम लेमैन टाइप बोलते हैं ना कि जब आपका फोड़ा पक जाता है तो उस पर बाम लगाने का कोई फ़ायदा नहीं है.
Right.
उसकी सर्जरी करनी पड़ती है.
Right.
दूसरी तरीके से जब बोलते हैं सठे साठ्यम समाचरे जैसे को तैसा, तो ये कुछ जो चीज़ें जो हम मुहावरों में और आए दिन सुनते हैं उसको हमको प्रैक्टिकली पाकिस्तान के केस में लागू करना पड़ेगा. So it has to be a long drawn planning which will entail both diplomatic, economic, cultural, and of course the military.
Right. So when you're talking about culture, economy as well, so we usually feel like there has been long feeling in India that of course, as you mentioned, Pakistani army controls it, right? So army is most powerful and important factor there. But that is different from, let's say, Pakistani people. Usually what happens, there is a thinking that if we support Pakistani people at least and isolate them from Pakistani army, so the isolation should be at the top level, like
Very
the
true.
elites, leaders, army generals and all. If they get isolated, the chances are at least Pakistani people, because they are not actually taking the guns and running to India in that scenario, right? Let's say if we'll take that aspect into picture, do you think after like 70, 80 years of this trial and all, should we take this further, or should we modify this a little bit, or does that this can work?
No, no, I totally agree with you. It is always said that if you have to punish a country, and when you know who are the real culprits, if it is not the people, if it is the government of the day, it is those establishment, the deep state within the country, and when you have identified them so well after all these years, then your actions have to be calibrated in a manner that those responsible agencies, in this case Pakistani Army and ISI, which is part of Pakistani Army. So our impact should be, I mean, action should be so impactful that these people are targeted in a major way. Of course, there will be attrition, there will be side effects where the people will also suffer, which is just very unfortunate. But then, as far as possible, like if you see, like Indus water, whatever you stop. Now, all these three western rivers, which water is, as per the treaty, given to Pakistan, the moment India closes it and off season, non-monsoon time, when the water as it is less, because you know the glaciers have reduced, the water content in the river is reduced. So, as it passes, most of the water is utilized in Pakistani Punjab.
Exactly.
And which is again dominated Punjabis, Pakistani Punjabis, Muslims, they dominated the Pakistani army.
Yes, they do.
Which other parts of Pakistan, like downstream Sindh, they badly hate it because they are the losers. They don't get water, sufficient water. It's almost like a desert.
Right.
Similarly, Balochistan. So you know the different parts of Pakistan, Balochistan, Sindh, POK, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and all that. Every part of Pakistan is enraged because it is the chunk of Punjabi Muslim Pakistan dominated in bureaucracy and an army which utilizes most of the resources. Others are deprived.
Right.
So when you reduce this water flow, the other downstream Sindh people has already, is in the news, they have started agitating because it impacts their day-to-day life. Yes, it will happen. But ultimately, once they agitate, it will pinch the establishment, the ruling establishment. And primarily, who is the ruling establishment? The Pakistani army.
Exactly.
So you will have to do those kind of things where, of course, people will also suffer to some extent. If you, all those economic measures, like we have closed our borders, the trade and all that aspect, which is day to day, those items that we export to Pakistanis, that will not be available or become costly for them. It is again part of the package. You can't totally make it black and white where it will affect the army and not the public. It's very difficult to do that. But yes, the focus has to be that we have to catch the real rogue, and the real rogue is Pakistani army and its affiliated organization. Now, having said that, what we need to do is the short term and long term. Short term, whatever we have done, and I'm sure our policy planners, different security establishment, Army, Navy, Air Force, and other associated agencies of the Government of India, they must be all prepared. The plans are always there. They will work in a coordinated, calibrated manner. And as you know, all these actions are taken at a time and place of choosing by us. It cannot be dictated by them. So that is purely in the hands of our political leadership. And I am more than confident they will do it in the best possible manner. What I would like to request our leadership and planners, with my experience of 3.5 decades of being part of the security establishment, that we need to think long term. Because this one-off terrorist act may happen again after a few months down the line, few years down the line. But we need to take care of the festering problem once and for all, that the impact should last for years to come, not for only for a few year or maybe a few months. No, for all time to come, India should be safe from all these kind of irritating elements like Pakistan. For that, we need to work on our security establishment, defense forces, and that has to be long term. Like we have to be, in terms of military, we have to be self-sufficient. And what the government is doing for last 10 years, it's a welcome change. Post-independence, and what we did, we had the tag of being the world's largest importer of weapons. Today we are not. Today we have substantially improved our local production, and as the Honorable Raksha Mantri just said a few days back, that we have already crossed a figure of export of 30,000 crore, production of almost 1.5 lakh crore defense, and out of that the package of export is more than 30,000 crore. And we expect to touch a figure about $5 billion by about 2029-30. So that's a welcome change. We have very many systems which is now world class, whether it is BrahMos, whether it is like our ALH fighter or helicopter, LCA, LCH, Prachand, now that we have ordered 156. So, and RT gun, which is a major change. Now we are getting into drones and others. So all this Make in India initiative is bearing fruit. We are moving in the right direction. But as you know it, it is not one day affair or a few years affair. It is a long drawn affair.
Right.
China started in 70s, beg, borrow and steal, and see where they have. Today they are standing eyeball to eyeball with US with that kind of military capability after almost 50 years.
Right.
So we have to look at a very longer time frame. But yes, we need to understand that building of these institutions, local production, being self-sufficient in defense production is extremely important that we have to do.
Right.
At the same time, like the domain experts, like the top body is National Cabinet Committee on Security. Uh, uh, my piece of advice to the government would be that, of course, the Prime Minister, the important ministries of Defense, Finance, Foreign Affairs, and Home, they are part of them,
Right.
apart from the secretaries and all.
Right.
That our CDS, we have created that post, the CDS, or Chiefs of Army, Navy, and Air Force. Our defense establishment in this kind of situation is the last pillar that the country has to resort to. So, their advice should be in that meeting. They should be visible to the people of the country.
Right.
That gives that confidence to the people of the country that yes, the elements which are going to take care of this kind of nuisance, they are sitting and advising our political leadership at the highest level, so that the right advice reaches, and the result is that much more fruitful. So that would be my request and advice to our leadership, that they need to be taken on board in that meeting itself, where that first hand information input regarding what is the best course of action against our inimical forces reaches our political leadership. That is. And last but not the least, I would like to say that defense forces is like insurance. We all have, you have your life insurance. I
Yes.
do have health insurance, life.
Right.
It's not that we are going to need it tomorrow.
All that.
May or may not. But it is that for that fateful day, we keep paying PMIs, premiums, isn't it? So your defense forces is like insurance of the nation. You cannot weigh expenditure in terms of हमें क्या मिला नहीं मिला. No, that is too foolish. I keep hearing many of our policy planners articles. No, फौज पे इतना खर्च हुआ, ये नहीं हुआ. You'll be surprised to know that even today we are not spending at least even 2% of our GDP.
Right.
Even 60s we were less than that. Even today we happen to be there only. We need to substantially increase, because this is the only insurance that you have for those kind of worst scenario where you have to take on these inimical forces and do those kind of surgery which will give you respite for all times to come. So for India to be effective or free from this kind of nuisance value, we have to understand that our defense forces have to be strengthened in all forms by suitably looking after their requirements and taking them on board, so that the country takes the right decision at the right time to take care of the nation's interest.
Right. It is refreshing to hear your thoughts, especially when you are talking about that those who are actually expert in these fields should be taking those decisions, should be involved and be the face of it, rather than what we are seeing today. Everybody is making up their own stories, making up their own plans to attack Pakistan and just
Yeah, yeah.
launch an attack. So this is actually a refreshing
No,
thing
you
to
know
hear.
that
Yeah.
there is so much of anger in the society,
There is,
street.
no
People
doubt
are
there is,
coming out on the street. Markets are being shut. They demanding action against Pakistan, which is very natural. It's the human sentiment, feeling. There's so many lives lost. The budding lives, young, just wed, and imagine
Yes.
the small kid telling that my dad was asked his क्या तुम्हारा धर्म है, and he was shot dead point blank. So these are the chilling facts of life. So the people will demand action. Therefore, what I'm basically trying to submit here is that when you see those kind of sentiment within the country, and when you have the meeting at the highest level happening with your defense forces chief sitting next to the top leadership,
Right.
that gives that much more confidence to the nation.
Exactly.
That it's you said it should not only be done; it should be seen to be done.
Seen to be done.
So that is that aspect. I am only requesting that it should happen that way, which will give more confidence to the people of the nation.
Sir, as a last question, what do you think from the perspective you have mentioned China, right? Let's take the example of Bangladesh as well. Things have changed a lot in Bangladesh in last few months, right? Do you think has there been any impact because of that as well in these activities, and maybe they are related somehow?
You see, ultimately, it is the same kind of that I would say call. If you look at the globe, that all the trouble spots that you have, majority of them that Muslim countries or their elements or some kind of groups, they are creating this kind of some kind of disturbance. Now, what Bangladesh we are witnessing is again they throughout the government, which was supposedly a democratically elected government, living with a good relation with its neighbors, primarily India.
Exactly.
But now you see what is happening in Bangladesh, that all those enemical forces have gained strength. They have somehow influencing the activities of the government of the day. So somewhere the similar elements, what is active in Pakistan is trying to raise their head in Bangladesh also.
Right.
So if we are able to show and take by taking effective action in Pakistan, it will have deterrence there also. So we have to keep that larger picture in mind, that our actions should be such that these kind of enemical forces, wherever they are, in the neighborhood or anywhere in the world,
Right.
they should be very scared of India's action, that India will not tolerate this kind of action. And our Honorable Prime Minister has been very, very explicit in a few days back when he was addressing the public in Bihar, that we will find out the perpetrators of this crime and the elements who have been backing them, wherever they are, and they will not go unpunished. So that kind of resolve in the political leadership, I'm sure short-term and long-term effective actions will be taken, and it has to be taken so as to ensure that these kind of elements, whether in Bangladesh or any other country in the neighborhood or Indian ocean region, they don't land up doing any kind of nuisance for the country. That is what is the need of the hour.
Thank you so much, sir, for
Yeah.
discussing this, especially in detail. Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Uh,
Rajat. Thank you so much for having me here. And it is something of a call of the nation that we are
Correct.
discussing. And I hope our leadership does something effectively, so as times to come, our people don't suffer the way we have suffered till now.
Exactly, sir. Thank you so much. We pay our homage and respect to the victims of this terrorist attack, and we believe actions will be taken, and we will get peace and revenge for all of those who are dead. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rajat. Thank you so much.